Welcome back to World News. Here are some Asia headlines. Passenger name record as Belgium pushes for faster security progress.
NATO Chief Stoltenberg meets with Ukrainian Foreign Minister in Brussels.
Passenger name record as Belgium pushes for faster security progress. The Belgian Interior Minister warned of threats against Belgium and France on Thursday, January 29th, as the European Commission said it is reviewing plans on sharing airline passenger data to address privacy concerns while still seeking to improve security following militant attacks in Paris. I think we need to go faster. We proved that there are really threats in Belgium and in Paris. The question is not if something is going to happen, but the question is when and where. Belgian Interior Minister Jan Jambon said ahead of the informal meeting of the bloc's Interior and Justice Ministries in Riga. A system for sharing airline travel data among European Union countries put forward by the Commission in 2011. Known as Passenger Name Record, PNR, has been reissued by lawmakers who argue it infringes privacy by instituting mass tracking and surveillance of all travelers. The Commission, the EU executive, proposes reducing the period airline passenger data is held before being stripped of its identifying elements from 30 days to 7 days, according to the document seen by Reuters. The data will be stored and accessible for 5 years if needed for terrorism cases. It will only be held for 4 years if needed for transsexual crimes.
NATO Chief Stoltenberg meets Ukrainian Foreign Minister in Brussels. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg met with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Pavlo Klimkin at the alliance's headquarters in Brussels on Thursday, January 29. Violence has intensified in the conflict in Ukraine, where a fragile ceasefire signed in September collapsed after pro-Russian separatists drove Ukrainian government forces out of the strategically important Donetsk airport. A rebel advance launched last week appears to have buried the truce. The separatists say their initial objective is to drive back government forces out of artillery range of the cities they hold and improve their grip on key strongholds. Klimkin thanked Stoltenberg for his invitation to NATO, saying it was important to meet under different circumstances. The NATO chief said it was particularly important to meet Klimkin following the increase in violence in Ukraine.
Mourners hold vigil for late prosecutor Nisman demand justice. Mourners gathered outside a funeral in the Buenos Aires neighborhood of Núñez on Wednesday, January 28, where a wake was being held for a late Argentinian prosecutor, Alberto Nisman, whose death has sent shockwaves through the South American country. Nisman, who was a lead investigator of the 1994 bombing of the AMIA Jewish Center that killed 85, was found dead in his apartment with a gunshot wound to his head on January 18th. He had been scheduled to appear before Congress the following day to answer questions about his claim that President Cristina Fernandez tried to whitewash Iran's alleged role in the attack. The mourners on Wednesday night demanded justice, and many lit candles and held up banners reading, "We are all Nisman." Police had to hold the crowds back as Argentinian's prosecutor, General Alejandro Giles Carbo, left Nisman's wake, with most chanting, "Murder, murder," as her car drove past. Nisman's death has triggered a storm of conspiracy theorists, including some directly against Fernandez.
Swiss shops lower prices. Expect wage cuts as Swiss franc soars. Discounts up to 20% have been common in the Swiss capital since the Swiss National Bank announced it was abandoning its 3-year-long cap on the Swiss franc on January 15th, prompting the franc to soar against the euro. Offers and imported food products have been flourishing in Switzerland in the main supermarket chains like Coop or Migros to prevent customers from going to rival shops in nearby France, Germany, or Italy, where the cost of living was already less expensive. Facing the same issues, the Bongini and Greeter Group's management decided on a similar plan of action, offering a 20% discount on all its products, mainly clothes, which are not already on sale. The group owns around 20 stores throughout Switzerland, many near the borders of France and Germany, and employs about 600 staff. This decision is expected to have a strong impact on the group, but keeping their clientele was the main goal of their long-term strategy.
Turkish border quiet as deadline for prisoner exchange looms. Turkish border town of Akala was calm on Thursday, January 29th, as a deadline approached for a possible prisoner exchange between Jordan and Islamic State militants. An audio message, purportedly from a Japanese journalist being held by IS, said a Jordanian Air Force pilot captured by the group would be killed unless Iraqi female prisoner in Jordan was released at the Turkish border by sunset on Thursday. The message appeared to postpone a previous deadline set on Tuesday, January 27th, in which the journalist Kenji Godu said he would be killed within 24 hours if the Iraqi was not freed. Sajida al-Rashawi is on death row for her role in 2005 suicide bombing attack that killed 60 people in the capital Amman. The latest audio recording, which could not be verified by Reuters, implied that the Jordanian pilot Muath al-Qasiyaba would not be part of an exchange deal, indicating any swap would be between Godu, a veteran war reporter, and al-Rashawi. At midday local time, the Al-Akala border crossing with Syria, where any swap would be expected to take place, was calm, with people going about their usual business. Jordan said on Wednesday, January 28th, it had received no assurance that al-Qasiyaba was safe and that it would go ahead with prisoner swap only if he was freed.
Carlsberg closes 2 breweries in Russia due to economic downturn. Danish brewer Carlsberg on Thursday, January 29th, closed 2 of its 10 breweries, and sanctions hit Russia as a weak market blighted by the economic downturn has dented demand there. Production at the Chelyabinsk and Krasnoyarsk breweries was suspended due to declining demand. Carlsberg said in September the Russian beer market had dropped 24% between 2008 and 2013, and an additional 7% in the first half of 2014. Workers queued for separation papers at the Batyka Pikra brewery in Krasnoyarsk, where flags of the Batyka brand, sold across the countries of the former Soviet Union, flew in the breeze. It's over. The factory has been shut down, said Konstantin Muraryoyev, who worked for the brewery for 12 years and was a shift manager, clutching his termination papers. The economic situation is difficult in our country. There are too many breweries, while the beer market is falling here in the Krasnoyarsk region. There are too many breweries. They have closed 2 breweries now, this one and another one in Chelyabinsk, he told Reuters. Yevgeny Kylov, who was a driver for the brewery for 14 years, said he did not know what he would do next.
Paris suburbs in the spotlight after attacks by homegrown Islamists. Deadly shootings by homegrown Islamists have cast a light on what French Prime Minister Manuel Valls has called a geographical, social, and ethnic apartheid, in one of the starkest incidents of French society by a government figure. The January 7-9 attacks on satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo, a Jewish supermarket in Paris, have plunged France into a soul-searching debate to assess how the 3 gunmen were radicalized and how to prevent a repeat of the violence that claimed 17 victims. Valls said France had to look at all the divisions in the tensions that have been simmering for years, and especially since 2005, when riots erupted across many of France's power keg suburbs. Regulation of some of the suburbs, ghettos, things I was already talking about in 2005, a geographic, social, ethnic apartheid which has developed in our country, Valls said. Rundown neighborhoods ring many French cities, often populated by poor whites, blacks, and people of North African descent who feel marginalized from mainstream society. The unrest is often blamed on a combination of unemployment in such zones running as high as 40%, racial discrimination, and perceived hostile policing. For those working in the suburbs, members of associations, or local politicians, the personal history of the children involved holds part of the explanation.
Germany's Gabriel says Greek politics mustn't burden the rest of the European Union. German Economy Minister Sigmar Gabriel told Parliament on Thursday that the new Greek government must stick to its commitments and not burden the rest of Europe. All democratic peoples must respect the democratic decision of voters and a newly elected government's right to decide its course. But the rest of Europe's citizens should not have to expect changes in Greek politics to burden them, he said. Gabriel said Greece should stay in the euro, but the new leftist leader, Alexis Tsipras, must respect the terms of its bailout. Greece could not blame the troika of multilateral lenders for its own unfair distribution of wealth, he added. Regarding the Ukraine crisis, Gabriel said that Europe had no intention in imposing tougher new sanctions on Russia over Ukraine. But the only way forward was to abide by the terms of last year's ceasefire agreed in Minsk. German exports to Russia are likely to fall by as much as 15% this year, or for almost billion euros, after plummeting 20% in 2014 due to sanctions over the Ukraine standoff and the weak ruble, said Germany's DIHK Chambers of Commerce on Thursday.
Following are today's weather forecast in New York Exchange. Thank you for watching VBS News. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.